Hello, everybody in podcast land. I'm David.
And this is Jono.
And this is the Let's Wing It podcast, where nothing is prepared and everything is a mess.
I mean, I wrote like one or two things.
I don't want to hear about it.
Okay, let's introduce what we're gonna talk about today, because this one we kind of prepared a little bit.
Well, yeah, we had to watch the hit new show, the HBO Max Crave in Canada.
It was crazy how big it was.
It's going to be a big show. It's going to be the Game of Thrones of 2023, and that is The Last of Us.
Well, it'll be the Game of Thrones 2023 that actually has a storyline that they can actually finish.
An arc that is complete.
Yeah.
Hopefully, unless they do something absolutely drastic, but I don't think they will. It seems like they have a vision. They're sticking to it. But let's talk about that.
Yeah.
After I talk about...
our sponsor,
Elgato!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Elgato, for sponsoring all the equipment sent to us. You didn't pay us to do it, but you sent us Wave DX, Wave low profile arms,
And the Wave panels.
Oh, the Wave panels!
Which I'm a big fan of.
I always forget about that.
Everything Elgato is usually very solid, very good. I feel like it's like if you're getting into streaming,
Yep.
you're not making a bad choice by getting Elgato stuff.
Yeah, and we're actually using their equipment to record this podcast. If you're just starting, just go to Elgato, because literally, I just want David, like, what should we get? You're like, Elgato. I'm like, okay. That's pretty much it. But yeah,
Hell yeah.
go to Elgato.com.
Thanks to Elgato, and use our promo code. We don't have one. But Jono, what did you think about The Last of Us, the TV show?
Can I rate it on two different scales?
You can do whatever you want.
Okay,
it's your podcast.
Okay, well, it's your podcast.
It's
too.
yours and mine.
Yeah, we can do whatever. For just like a general TV show, give it out an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
But for an adaptation, 10 out of 10. It's like perfect. It's like there's going to be spoilers.
Yeah, we're not going to pretend like there's no spoilers.
Yeah. Like, let's just say, if you haven't played Last of Us and you were just saving yourself for this TV show, you're an idiot. I'm just going to say it. That's a hot take.
That's a hot take.
Yeah, but the story's been out since, what was it?
2013?
2013.
Literally 10
years. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like spoiler warnings for 10-year-old prop media is unnecessary.
But like every single thing, nothing felt too bloated, in my opinion. Everything felt really strategically placed to help enhance the story or convey the story that would be only acceptable to be consumed as a watchable thing.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I rated about the same. I think I'm going to give it a 7.9 or an 8.
Really?
I really like it. I have a lot of big issues. They come down to the core of the existence of the show, but I want to start with the positive side first.
I'm interested. I want to hear about that, but let's talk about the things that we like.
Yeah, I like that it feels sophisticated.
Yes.
And I think that that's a huge thing that the video game did really well, was that it felt like it elevated zombies out of in being like, B-tier horror bullshit. Yeah. Walking Dead tried to do it, but it landed right back in the middle of utter bullshit. Pretty quickly.
The Walking Dead, I got bored. Well, I didn't get bored. I just jumped ahead because I read the comics.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, the comics is like 10 out of 10 better.
Way better.
Zombies are just boring as shit.
Yeah, and I think like there was a good vision with The Walking Dead to be like, it's not about the zombies, it's about the world it creates and what it does to humans and like how they interact with each other.
Yeah.
But I just think that The Last of Us, what it did so good is that boiled down the essence of that, and it gave you a really tight story about this human and these horrors he's had to go through, and it felt so real. The dialogue felt so authentic. It felt so close to life. And I think that's a huge part of the video game, why it's so good, is that it was a video game that finally felt as good as a movie. Like it didn't feel like it was, hey, it's a really good video game story. It's like, no, it's a really good story. It just happens to be a video game.
Yeah, like, I mean, just one note to all the listeners and viewers. David actually has like an amazing like Last
video
of Us
essay?
2 essay on it. I think it was like 25 minutes or something.
Oh, an hour and a half.
Was it an hour and a half?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking Riley's, because his is about like 25 minutes.
Oh, sure.
But yeah, no, it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I watched that one. I watched it after I played Last of Us 2. It's on Last of Us 2.
Definitely, I would suggest playing Last of Us 2 first.
Before doing this.
Yeah.
But yeah, like David and I have both played Last of Us 1, Last of Us 2. I don't think I haven't played any of the DLC.
There's only the one DLC for the first one.
Yeah.
I've played it all. I've played them all multiple times. Last of Us 2013 might at one point have been my favorite video game. I do think I like the second one more. I think it accomplishes all the things the first one did and elevates it. A Godfather 2's the first one. Yeah. And I think in the same way that I like the Godfather 1 maybe more in some ways than 2, but 2 is kind of better.
Though 2 different stories.
Exactly. And I feel like that's what this one does as well. Let's get back onto the show. The point being, I love the story of The Last of Us. And I think that this TV show totally nails the tone, the aesthetic, and just like the vibe of the video game. It feels very true to the video game.
Yeah. Like everything I saw, like it's been a while since I played Last of Us 1. I actually downloaded Last of Us 1 again, the remastered version.
Oh, nice. You got it?
Granted,
it's too expensive for me.
No, I might. No. The remastered one is the one that became 4K.
Oh, you're right.
But I might get the Last of Us Part 1.
I want to.
Yeah, it's stupid expensive.
When it goes down to like $40, I'll get it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Dude, for full disclosure, it's $90 Canadian, which is I think $80.
Suck my dick, Naughty Dog. That's bullshit.
Yeah. But yeah, like everything looked and felt like the game. The dingy, dirty, post-apocalyptic town, just like how I would feel like, oh, they are in this kind of atmosphere. Mm-hmm. Dystopian, everyone's depressed, they're just kind of irking by. Love it.
Yeah.
Like, it's great. There's even some moments that felt like a video game in the show.
I think, one of the coolest moments for me is how they replicate the car driving through the apocalypse scene. So if you're not familiar with the game, the first 20 minutes, the intro, you play from the perspective of Sarah. So you see the world from her vision. You see the kind of like first zombie attack. You see this. And then Tommy and Joel come home, pick her up, and she's sitting in the back seat. And so then for about 5 minutes, you're driving through the city exactly like the show. Mm-hmm. You're kind of looking through the window, and they even simulate kind of first-person shots. The video game's not in first person, that part, but it's like sort of simulating that.
I mean, it's good enough.
And it's really cool as a fan of the video game, but then it's also, I think, a really effective way of placing the audience into the events that are happening. It's like it's a really good subjective filmmaking technique.
It's the panic. I've been a big fan of like zombie movies since I watched like The Night of the Living Dead with
the original.
Wow. One. So I've watched progressively most of them. Mm-hmm. Full disclosure, I've skipped a lot of the Resident Evil because that's not a zombie show.
That doesn't really count, yeah.
It's just a stupid movie.
T-virus bullshit. Or what are they? I don't know what they're called in the movie.
It's dumb. Yeah. It's just sci-fi. That's what it is. If I wanted to watch an action movie, sure, I'll watch it. But this one, like, I think World War Z is like my favorite piece of media about zombie apocalypse.
Book or the movie?
The book.
Okay,
I
was like,
the movie's okay. The movie's okay.
Fine.
It's not great. But the book always like highlighted how the panic kills more people than the actual virus and the zombies infections. And just love how, because I think like the creators, Neil Druckmann, they were executive producers, and I think they were actually
directly involved. Yeah,
they were actually like legit executive producers instead of the ones that just like, I got the credit.
Yeah.
They actually like, I think they used the movie to go, oh, this is what we kind of wanted to do, but we just ran out of time. Because like that intro sequence, like that you're describing the car, was way more hectic than what was in the game.
I don't know if I agree with that. Yeah. I think like it's been a little bit since I played it, probably like 3 years. Since
I watched it right after because I'm like how close was it?
I feel like the movie or the TV show didn't heighten the emotional beats in the way that I hoped it would, but staying on the positive, I think that it does a really good job emulating the story, and it feels like even the things they add feel like it could have been part of a deleted scene in the video game.
Well, no, I was talking about more because it was like it felt more chaotic. Because like they were like driving in the show, like they're driving to the main street with the theater, and you just see everything just like explodes. If you actually go play the video game, you watch it, it's like it's muted a bit, but I think it's because of the hardware limitation.
Oh, 100%. It's a PS3 game.
It's a PS3 game, yeah. But like you can see like they went to like, oh, because of the PS3, we wanted this to happen. We want like, because the plane crash didn't happen in the game.
You couldn't have done that properly.
Yeah, but like in here it was like, it's like this is all screwed up.
See, it's hard. Whenever you're watching something that you hold dear to your heart and it's an adaptation, there's always a part of your brain that is just constantly cross-referencing. And you're constantly like, it's different, it's this. I really liked in that sequence when they're backing up and there's like almost a fake-out car crash, but they almost get hit in the same way they would have gotten hit in the video game.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't happen. And then there's a few more things. And I think all those things are good. They go forward, there's like the explosion, they go back. Or like there's the crowd, there's the people behind them. Like, that stuff's really good.
It felt claustrophobic.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm like, man, they're going to hit someone. Yeah. Like they really nailed the sequence with the people. I don't know how much was CG. I don't know how much was real practical people.
Yeah.
But I think they did a really good job. nailing the like, there's nowhere to go. Like, where the fuck do you go? Even
Yeah.
I like when they go into the field and stuff, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, we got to go north." Like, that's a terrible plan. They're like, "Why would we go north? You can't go east. You can't go west. You can't go south.
We got to go somewhere.
We got to go somewhere."
How much gas, you guys?
Yeah.
Like, we have 3/4 tank.
Yeah.
And then you actually noticed that when he actually drove into that field, there was like people following him.
Yeah, that was really cool.
It's like those little minute details.
Yeah.
Because like, if I was driving, I saw like some guy like going into the field. I'm like, oh, it's safe. Let's do it.
Well, it's funny because The Last of Us is so unique because it's like they've had 4 chances to refine this story that they're telling.
Yeah.
They had the 2013 PS3 game.
Yeah.
They remastered it in 2014, so it's basically the same, but like they did little tweaks here and there.
Yeah.
And then last year they did it from the ground up.
Is it ground up?
Yeah, it's like a brand new, all assets and stuff. Like there's different, like it's different. It's same beat for beat, but like they've refined the story, and then they did the TV show, which is,
Got it.
human. They had to do it absolutely from the ground up.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because as I've ever created things in my life, when you finish, you're always like, oh, there's this little thing I would change. There's this little thing I would change.
That's what I'm saying with this TV show. It felt like it was like his like little wish list.
The problem is I feel like sometimes deleted scenes are better left deleted. And I felt like I was reminded about how important editing is in good writing. And I think that this show suffers from existing in a time where everything is a TV show and we consider everything being shown to us on screen, every character being developed so thoroughly instead of a good thing. We want as much information, as much content as possible.
Yeah.
And I feel like the best writing isn't necessarily the longest, most descriptive writing. It's smart. It's clever. And it gives you the broad strokes with very little. It gives you a lot with a little.
Yeah.
And I feel like this show still gives me a lot, but it's with a lot. And I think that all the extra scenes are good.
Fair. Yeah.
But like they're all good. I was never like, this is a bad scene. I'm always like, but it feels like I didn't need this information, and the impact of the show isn't heightened by like seeing her go to the pawn shop to get the watch fixed.
Yeah, I think that's what I was like thinking of at the show too. I'm like, no, the show started off like you just see Sarah.
Yep.
And just like she goes on downstairs. Like that's how the game starts.
Yep.
And that's how like the show at one point started. Like she just goes on. Like I felt like I kind of wish I didn't see that beginning part because I guess they're trying to set up like who Joel is, who Sarah is, who's Tommy. But I guess like I don't know. Like to me, I think you and I probably have the same feelings. Like I kind of wish it just kind of started. Like
100%
at the bed.
Well, and it's hard. It's a different medium, so you have to tell the story a different way. Like there's so much of The Last of Us's details are you as Joel crawling around somewhere talking to another character. So it's just like narrated description, this exposition they can talk.
Yeah.
And you can't really do that in a TV show. There's not a lot of like just two people walking somewhere, nothing happening. And so I get it. They have to give you the information of like Tommy being like an ex-Marine or whatever.
Was he ex-Marine?
On his thing, it says he's like combat veteran on his
Oh,
tribe.
I thought that was Joel.
Oh, maybe.
You know what? Their experience in warfare. Like
Yeah.
I think because like in the game they do the thing that I kind of hate in video games is that give me the story. Like I don't want to read things. I don't want to search out for this newspaper clipping. Just give it to me.
Yeah.
Like I hate having to replay a level because I missed this thing.
Oh god, yeah.
That would explain this thing. That's why like again I think even going before that was like the interview, that TV show interview. About,
that was
the,
neat.
The fungus. I'm like, oh, like to me, I'm like, that makes so much more sense. I'm like, oh, I actually wanted to look into that research. I'm like, how valid is this? Because that's actually really scary at the same time. And it's like another hit of like, oh, climate change fucked you more ways than one.
I agree. I liked the scene a lot. The way they turn the scene around and have that scientist who is kind of presented as a little bit of a quack. The guy's like, well, bacteria, viruses. And he's like, I'm not worried about that. It's fungus. And everyone laughs at him. He's like, no. Let me spell it out for you why fungus is way scarier than anything. Yeah. It's really cool. And it's really neat because you can't have Joel walk around reading like notes when he's scouring a lab or whatever.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm not someone who reads the notes in video games. I hate like the Dark Souls storytelling where it's like, hey, 80% of the story is going to be item descriptions. And I'm like, that's awesome. And I love watching the videos that someone has assembled all the information and being like, oh, that's what happened in Bloodborne. Okay. And like before that, I'm just like, it's just vibes and it's fucking crazy vibes and I dig it. But I don't feel like The Last of Us needed that. It's just like extra set dressing. And I think that the main story beats are in the movie. And I think like, I don't feel like they ever talk about those ants in the video game, but there's like a clip of them in the title sequence. And I got like the effect of it. And I felt like it was a cool scene. And it was a good, like, not a trailer scene, but almost like an overture where it allows you to like, hey, put a pause in the world. In the same way that like old movies had a title sequence with like 3 minutes of music. Yeah. It allowed you to be like, this is the tone of the show. Take a second. We're going to bring you in. Yeah. We're inviting you into this story. I think it's really effective for that. But I also think I'm worried that the show is going to be not bloated, but heavy.
It's going to be, I think.
And not heavy in like a dark way, like in a overloaded.
That's why I had the same kind of thought too. Like I was worried that they're going to stretch out Last of Us 1 to like 4 seasons.
Which would have sucked.
It needs to be like maybe 2 seasons. Like,
100%.
Spoilers. I think this season should go all the way up until Joel gets injured. Oh, maybe?
No. All the way. All the whole story.
Really? 1 season?
Like, I hope so.
Well, I mean, it has to be like 24 episodes.
No. The game's only like 12 hours, and like 8 of that is like just like walking behind them.
And
we got through a lot of story in that first episode.
Yeah. That's why I was actually I wanted to allude is that I was really surprised this episode was 1 episode.
Yeah.
I was actually expecting it. I'm like, oh, okay. When Sarah dies,
totally. I thought that was the episode
break 1, too. Yeah. And it's like, oh no, there's actually one thing I want to talk about maybe later. And then it's like 20 years later, and then all the way up until the explosion happens. Yeah. And with Tess. And I'm like, okay, that's the end of the episode because she gets taken to jail or something.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it just keeps going.
I'm like, love it.
Oh, granted, the episode was like an hour.
Hour 20. Yeah.
So they might have done that usual typical thing that
first
makes
episode's
it really
a little
long,
longer.
and then everything else is 40.
I hope they're hour long. Just because I'm enjoying it a lot. And like, I know I'm coming off hard against the show, but like, I really enjoyed it. And like, I am very excited to keep watching.
It's easy to like this show.
Yeah. And it does a lot of really good things. And I think if I wasn't cross-referencing it to a video game property that is really near and dear to my heart, I would give it an unabashed positive rating.
Yeah.
But that's not how subjectivity, that's not how critique works. Every review, every opinion is always what you have in your head already versus what you're currently watching. And what I have in my head is a lot of Last of Us.
Yeah. I think the one thing I want to talk about is like the video game moments. As those some things that kind of like popped in my head. I was like, oh, that's a video game moment. That's a video game thing. That's a video game thing. So maybe for the listener is that if you've played Last of Us 1 and 2, you may have encountered this moment in this game or other games where you have to tightly squeeze into like a fence or like go through a crack or go under a bus. That's just like a mythology to prevent loading screens. So there was like one moment that really stood out to me to be like that was when they got out of the walls and they went under the bus.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, that's a video game moment. Totally. There's another moment where it's something completely different was like when Tommy and Joel and Sarah got split up.
Yeah.
It's how that car crashed into.
Oh, yeah. And then it blocked them into. Totally.
I was like, that's a fucking video game moment.
100%.
Yeah. And then I think the last one was, I think they took the scene 1 for 1. Joel, Ellie, Tess get caught outside. And there's a moment where like the guy's like shining the gun into his face and he gets a flashback of what happens.
I'll talk about that moment.
Yeah. And then I felt like, oh, what's the triangle? Like, what was the quick time event?
Yeah, totally. He's like smashing his face.
Yeah. Which is great. Like, I think it was 1 for 1.
Pretty close.
I think it was 2 guys. Like, yeah, I watched the video afterwards, just the scene comparisons. And it was like 2 people, but who gives a crap? Yeah. But it was great. Yeah. Like, I think it was awesome.
I like that scene. It's indicative of some of the good additions they did. They add a few characters. They're not main characters, but I like they add a corrupt officer character who Joel is selling OxyContin to and getting like, money and cigarettes in return.
Yeah.
And I love that little sequence where you're seeing kind of Joel use the economy of what's valuable in the wall. And he goes and he talks to the radio operator, gives him cigarettes. And he's like, tell me what's happening with Tommy. Yeah. And that's kind of the
that's one thing. If we ever get into the post-apocalyptic, I already messaged my sister by this. I'm like, I'm growing tobacco.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Cigarettes will be like the number one, 100%. The number one big
dude,
thing.
You don't need Pokemon cards. You should just start stockpiling cigarettes.
No, I have cigars, but no, I need tobacco seeds.
Yeah,
but really anyways, cool. Yeah, no, like those that, and I think I liked it how they introduced that character, even though they were going to kill him off.
Yeah, give him a little bit of characterization.
Well, not even that. It just world built for me. Like Joel, character built and world building. Where this place is like no one's really your friend.
Yeah,
and you get in my way, I will annihilate you. And it shows Joel's newfound, or it may have always been there, his ferocity, his dedication, getting the job done, and also how he's dealing with his continued grief of losing his daughter 20 years later.
Well, and I mean, like it does a good job making him morally gray without being reprehensible because he's selling drugs.
Yeah.
But it's like, you're like, yeah, I guess what are you going to do in this where like he has access to these OxyContins?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. You see him like, take some and pass out later because he's dealing with
I was actually quite shocked. I was like,
PTSD and stuff. Yeah, I liked that. I think it's good. They do efficient story. As much as I'm coming hard on hey, there's all these extra scenes you don't need. They do efficient storytelling. Like even with that scene of the police officer, he remarks like, hey, don't go out tonight. It's going to be scary tonight. You don't want to go out. Yeah. And then you kind of forget about it. And then you're like, oh yeah, they have to go out tonight. And it's going to be way worse to go out tonight.
Yeah.
And I like it. I like also the other characters they add, which is the neighbors. I thought it was interesting. I think the best thing they do with the neighbor is the horror moment with the grandma in the background. That was a sick moment. It was like so if you didn't see it, you're just listening to this because you're not listening to instruction.
Yeah.
Sarah's in the front. She's kind of looking at DVD. So she's in the foreground, in focus. And then there's this mute grandma that's been basically immobile in the background. And she starts kind of not quite convulsing, but, like seizing.
Yeah.
And her mouth opens and it's just all out of focus. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? And it goes on for like 30 seconds. Yeah. And it's really unsettling. And it's probably the best horror moment in the entire show.
I think when I remember seeing that scene, I even yelled at Jillian because she was watching it with me. And she was like playing it. Like she was like on her phone.
Yeah.
Oh,
watch.
Stop. Go watch this. I think that like ever since that scene, I felt like the show went from like 5 for tension. Yeah. And then that one's like 10.
Yeah.
And granted, those a lot of parts I want to maybe like when we keep watching the show, I want to like kind of dissect that a little bit more because that physical kind of like silent creepiness. There's a reason why I actually don't even though I do watch zombie movies, I don't really consider them to be horror to say. I find it like more of a tragedy kind of thing.
Sure.
Because like humans are the worst enemies.
Yeah, that's usually the point of good zombie movies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this show, it's like humans are their own worst enemies.
Right, and the zombies are barely a threat until like there's a mass of them or there's clickers.
Yeah. So I think that part was just like, oh, it's gonna get bad.
I really like that ramp up you're right, that moment, because hey, there's zombies. Before that, you saw at school the kid was kind of like twitching with the wrist thing and was like, oh, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Is it just a tick? What is it? She goes to the watch repair store and the wife comes out in the back. She's like, she says something in some language I'm not familiar with, but you hear zombie and you're like, huh. And she kicks her out of the store, closes the blinds, and you're like, that's not good.
Yeah.
Police sirens going by, all the usual zombie stuff. But it feels sophisticated. It doesn't feel like tacky in the same way like Dawn of the Dead.
No.
Well, that's not the best example.
No, actually, Dawn of the Dead was
pretty
good.
quick because you start right away with the thing. But a tacky zombie movie where it's just like the quick or like the slow build up and you're like, all right, just fucking get there. It didn't feel like they took too much time to get there.
Yeah.
But the tension was thrilling.
Yeah.
And then the release was good. You go to her, she goes back to the neighbor's house because the dog is freaking out. And you're like, don't bring the dog in there.
I was so upset about the dog because you actually see the dog look like a person going, please let me in.
Yeah, knocking on the window.
Jillian was really upset. She's like, oh.
But they didn't kill the dog, right?
No. Dog just runs away.
In the video game, you don't really see animals, which I think is a smart choice. Seems like there's not really...
No, to be fair, no, you see animals. You see the zoo. Remember, you get to...
Yeah, but you don't see like, infected animals, I don't think.
I don't think so. I think they leave them alone for the most part.
What was it with the...
Because you get the giraffes, right? There's that one scene where it's like, it's like Joel and Ellie become like they bond and they're like the father and daughter moment. And like that moment, I can't.
Well, that's good. I want to talk about that because I have a huge problem with what the TV show did in this episode.
Really?
In regards to that. I think they do a really good job. I think we'll talk about their specific performances in a little bit, but I think like their dynamic is set up. Like they're immediately butting heads. Like he steps on her knife. She's pissed. She's like wanting to fight. But
to be fair, she almost stabbed him.
Oh, no, like he's doing nothing wrong, but it's like a good natural way to build conflict.
Yeah.
And like they're already at each other's throats. It's great. But when the guard finally captures them, and she stabs, like Ellie stabs him, kind of like crawls away.
Yeah.
And there's that moment of tension where the light's shining in Joel's face. They made me so mad because they tell the audience, you're a fucking idiot. And they're like, hey, remember that thing that happened like 20 minutes ago? Here's a flash of it just in case you forgot.
Yeah.
And it made explicit a thing that was unspoken and better off left ambiguous by showing you this flash, comparing the setup of this conflict to when he's holding Sarah and the government guy shoots her, and then he freaks out. And so the show doesn't trust you to remember. It also doesn't trust you to make the connection of like he's starting to see, like there's starting to be a relationship there between Ellie and him. But then also, he still doesn't see her as his daughter, and it's way too early for the show to be like, "Hey, look, cross compare. Look at this daughter moment." And it's like, no, that hasn't been earned.
I think if I left like the game part, this is just like an original IP. This is a TV show. I think I would be kind of like, granted, I don't know, American TV, it's very spoon fed.
Yeah, I think that it sucks because HBO's not always done like that, and I don't think the show feels spoon-fed and simple in that way. Like it mostly feels sophisticated. It mostly feels like it trusts its audience to kind of figure out what's going on. And I think that moment would be better if, as an audience, we weren't sure that's what it is. Like obviously we have that in our head. It's part of the equation, you know, this PTSD of this moment where he lost his daughter. He also does not love Ellie. He sees her as a piece of cargo, a way to get a car so he can go. Why are they comparing his daughter to her yet? Like, yes, it's like they're just jumping the gun way too early on that part of the relationship. Obviously, they're going to get there. Obviously, by the end of the season, I'll be like, this is fine. But it's such a mistake to do in the first episode.
For me, when I watched the scene, I was fine with it. Okay. I was like, it's okay. If I was going to nitpick, I think I'd be on the same length of you as agreement of they kind of jammed it too impactful. I think they should have just left it showing that Joel will do whatever it takes to accomplish his mission.
Yeah, and I think that's way more interesting. Yeah. It's like he's doing it because he only sees the finish line.
Yeah.
And I think that's way cooler.
But I kind of see like what they're trying to do too. And I don't just here. I guess maybe this versus disagreement. I didn't feel like they're not respecting their audience too much.
Yeah,
I think it was fine. Like
I think that's fair. And I mean, like I'm clearly having a strong reaction to it.
Yeah,
but I think to me it's indicative, or it's a continuation of another problem I had with the show, which I don't think it made the strong emotional beats of the game's intro stronger. I found, I don't know if everyone feels this way, but I found when Joel realizes Sarah's been shot, he's holding her, and she's like grasping him. It's very similar to the game, the same noises, the same kind of breathing, grasping.
Yeah.
I really like that. I didn't find it nearly as impactful. Every time I've played the game, I've played that intro of the game probably 10 times in my life. I cry every single time.
Yeah.
I didn't really feel emotional watching the show. And I can't tell if it's, I think the close-ups last too long on Sarah. Like there's something that's like different.
Yeah.
And maybe I just was off, but I didn't feel it.
I think it's like, I was the same way. Like I only played The Last of Us once.
Okay.
But I still remember most of the beats.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to forget.
Yeah. But yeah, I was the same way. I was really emotional in the game. I remember it was like, oh, no way. Yeah. Like, this is stupid. But like, I was pretty pissed. But that's what the reaction that they want you to be, like mad, sad. This one, I definitely was not like, I didn't feel anything. It was like, oh, Sarah's dead. This is for me. I don't know if it was because I've seen it before. I've gone through it. And I'm like, oh, this is what's going to happen. My expectations. I wonder if they're going to hit the same beats.
Yeah.
They hit the same beats, but didn't resonate with me.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think that's a tough balancing act the show's going to have, is that its toughest critics and its most devout fans are going to be people that have played the game.
Yeah.
And so they have to give us what we want, because if they deviate too far, we're going to be pissed. But they need to also give us other stuff so that like we want to keep watching.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a huge success of the show so far.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I'm like, hey, these extra scenes don't make the story better, it's still like deleted content for something I love, and now there's more for me to watch.
I mean, to be honest, right? It's like it's for us, like we can list off all day like what things we love about the show. But, you know, that'd be easy. But I mean, I think we have to always be. We're not video producers in one way, but we're not to that scale.
Yeah.
But we always want to like critique things, and it's the same way for us when we create content. Like, this is what I'm gonna be doing with you, and then every time we upload, I'm gonna read all the comments like a hawk. But the same way, like Short Circuit, I will ignore the
ones that start to be downvoted ones.
Yeah, like pretty much like all the useless ones I won't listen to. But there'll be like ones like, oh, if people like us to talk about our day-to-day life, sure, I'll do that. Or they want us to talk more about video game stuff, I'll do that. But yeah, I think it's for us, like we want. The reason why, like, I think for us we should critique the show is because no show is perfect. Yeah, and also, hey, we gotta critique it because people don't want to listen to good news.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it'd be boring for like unabashedly, it's fantastic across the board. Yeah, it's like, yes, you can do that once in a while, but clearly there's things to be discussed. Yeah, but I think, like you said, there's kind of two scales by which we can rate the show. One is on its own merit as a piece of content, but also the other is as an adaptation of another piece of media. Yeah. And I think it really does work really well as an adaptation, which is interesting to me.
Yeah. Because, I mean, this is the whole point of the podcast, well, this particular episode, because we talked about it last week. Well, like, let's talk about, like, state of, like, video games and media. And it just really worked out well how The Last of Us 2, The Last of Us is coming out. Yeah. So that's great. Like, you know, I think...
I like that you can say The Last of Us 2013 in parentheses, Last of Us 2014 in parentheses, Last of Us 2022 in parentheses, or Last of Us 2023. Yeah. And it's all different fucking things.
I mean, okay, like there's a couple of things I still want to talk about The Last of Us, and then I kind of want to move on to like other states media. But here's one thing I'm super happy about. Like here's even though I just said we won't talk about the good stuff, but I do want to talk about this. Pedro Pascal. Yeah. Oh my God.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
It was funny. Cassie was like, oh, so they based the character's face off of him, right? And I was like, no. They just casted someone. And like, when I first heard he was cast, I was like, he doesn't look anything like Joel. But he embodies Joel. And you're just like, yeah, that's just Joel.
I mean, I think that's like, we talked about this on the other episodes about inclusion and diversity. I never felt like, oh, Joel has to be white. Like,
no, who cares?
It's like, oh, Sarah has to be white. It's like, oh, Sarah's like mixed. Pedro, he's
Latino.
Is he Argentinian?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, he's of a Latin descent.
Chilean.
So I to me in my head, I never felt like that. And I think this is the perfect way of how we need to introduce diversity into media. Of don't talk about it. Just have like, are they good at their job?
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a big deal. Yeah. Just include people. And like, I'm a big fan in terms of adaptation of prioritizing good acting over looks. Yeah. And I think that so many people get obsessed with like their fan cast of like finding someone that looks just like what they imagine or the artwork. Who fucking cares? Yeah. Who fucking cares if like Bella Ramsey looks like the Ellie from the game or not? She's gonna embody her. Like she's
I'm like, great.
I'm like, yeah, that's just Ellie. Like that's she looks different. Who fucking cares? Like she's got like that edge and like the still the youthful energy and like the broken innocence that makes her so angsty that Ellie has. And I was like, she's perfect.
Yeah. And I think she was really well casted. Everyone's really well casted. Yep. I think the only one that's like casted to like 1-to-1 likeness and looks and attitude is Marlene. Marlene was like, oh, that's exactly like her in the game.
She looks a little bit different. I hope that they give her a little bit more because I was like, I feel like she's not as
well. She's gonna die.
Yeah. I can't. Does she die? No, she doesn't. Well, yeah, she does at the end.
Yeah, no. Joel shoots
at the end.
I think it was like it cuts black. Yeah. You don't really know what happens, but you kind of know.
But I don't feel like the show. I think the video game does a better job making it feel like there's a complicated side to the relationship with Marlene more than the TV show did. The TV show, I was like, oh, she's kind of a simple side character who's serving a purpose. Whereas in the show, you're like, she's a player and she's got her moving pieces and she's doing this.
Yeah.
And I liked the actor fine, and I thought it was interesting. They gave us a little bit more of the fireflies, and like we're trying to head out. But I also think like that stuff is so unnecessary.
Yeah,
Like that extra scene of like talking to the lieutenants and explaining like what we're doing adds almost nothing to this show.
To me, it still added nothing to the show, considering the fact that at first, when the scene where they enter and try to get the car battery and everyone's dead, I'm like, well, I guess
like
her
that.
plan didn't work out. And I was like, oh, it's because they had a shootout. Granted, I was confused for a little bit. I'm like, oh, like did the police just like ambush them, both parties, and kill them? And it's like, oh no, it's because they didn't like the dead battery and shot him. Like, so that took a little bit for me to like kind of figure out, because I don't know, it's no one has uniforms.
Yeah, I liked the setup of that, and I liked that it was kind of tidy and what happens all in one place. But it kind of felt, movie convenient that everything was just kind of like right there.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I smell gunpowder. And you see like the blood dripping.
Yeah. And that's immediately before that, there's one of my nitpicks of, okay, if you haven't played the game, the zombies proliferate through spores. So like, it's like this, there's fungi and like, it's a mushroom taking over your body, like forcing you to do that. I think that's cool that the show, they managed to make it. A compromise the show makes is, instead of the mushrooms being spores that are released into the air, it's tendrils. So it has to like touch or whatever. They did it. I don't think it's explicit, but my theory is they didn't want to have the characters wear gas masks for half of it. And so in the video game, your character has to wear a gas mask anytime they're in a spore area. Whereas in the TV show, it would just be so obnoxious to constantly have characters in gas masks.
I think it's also like, because that's one thing I was wondering, because when they're in the basement, they saw that in like the full...
Yeah, the full mushroom dude.
Yeah, the guy became a mushroom. I was like I'm like, what? Like, because I think in my head, I was like, you're supposed to wear your gas mask.
Yeah.
At least the only one that doesn't have to wear a gas mask. And then like just so many things going ahead. I'm like, what's going on? But also there was like dialogue there too, where Tess is like, oh, like, because Joel was like, oh, does this person like came here to like live out his days infected? Or Tess is like, no, oh, maybe this is where he got infected.
Yeah.
Then I was like, I'm like, okay, what is it? Like, explain. Yeah. So they never really brought it out. Yeah. Granted, episode 2 is going to come out Sunday.
Yeah, it's nice that it's weekly. That scene with the guy splayed on the wall, I wanted to be wowed by this person. It kind of looked cheap to me, but I think the point of what I was saying was, because there's no spores, the air texture is much thinner. So it's like you don't have this really dense, thick air with like the light shining through. And I think it's a missed opportunity of the show. It doesn't have to be spores, but I found when they were crawling through the infected area, I was craving like the dusty, gross, green, not green, but like gray air.
Yeah.
And I found that with that person splayed on the wall, because it was so visible. There was no dust or obstruction of the view.
Yeah.
I could see it too much, and I felt like it looked kind of cheap.
I mean, yeah, I think maybe later when you get into like the more remote areas, it will look different. Because like we have to remember, like, this is like Boston, and people do live there technically. So
that's a fair point. And I might be proven wrong. Where like that's a... Later on, when we go deep where the clickers are and stuff, it'll be thick.
Yeah.
But I sure hope so, because I think that's a fun like visual cue of the game when you're going from like outside and it's bright and sunny and green and like overgrown cities, and then you go inside and it's just like thick air, and you're like, they put on their gas mask and you're like, oh man, you can hear the clicking. You're like, oh boy, this is about to be scary.
The 3 worst places, I think, in the Last of Us world, if to ever be in, is a parking garage, tunnels or sewers, and then also like big mansions in the basement. Like those are probably like,
any basement where you're just like, it's dark.
If you're underground, you're fucked.
Yeah.
So basically, how mushrooms grow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like I thought that was, I think mushrooms as the take for zombies is really fun, because it's just like such a weird unknown thing that we just accept in our lives. Like there's mushrooms everywhere, there's fungus everywhere in our life. Like we just kind of, they're there. But if all of a sudden they evolved to use us to proliferate, like that's so scary.
There's actually one more thing I'm actually kind of like world asking, was when they first showed Boston, actually the first thing, that scene about the kid who makes their way into the city. And
Oh yeah, that was
it.
interesting.
That was like, I'm like, whoa. It kind of shows like how like hardened Joel. He's like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
That kid's dead.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
It's a good state of the world scene too, because it's like how callously that woman is just like, we're gonna let you like play with all the toys you want, as the guy like is putting him down with a syringe. And
I mean,
like,
to be fair, I'm like, that sucks, but yeah, like that's probably the most correct way of dealing
totally.
with
And it's like, it is humane to like, make him think that it's all going to be good and put him down. I think it's a effective, it's an efficient scene because, you learn about that next scanner, you see red means infected, all this stuff. And then, like you said, it shows you the state of Joel. It shows you the state of like, we're just burning bodies all left, right, and center. Because people are still dying. It's 20 years after the D-Day or whatever, or Z-Day.
Yeah.
And it's still bad.
That's the one thing that's kind of interesting. Like, the 20-year thing. Because was it always 20 years?
10 years in the game.
Yeah, because it was 2013 in the game.
Yeah.
Then becomes 2023. But in the game, the start was 2003.
In the movie, it's 2000, or the TV show.
Yeah, because it was actually interesting to see that they acknowledged that because it's like the phone.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's kind of cool. But it's like, I
wonder why.
Yeah, I'm just like, interesting. Like, it didn't need to make it 2023.
It might be that it's easier to make post-apocalypse based on 2003 technology, whereas when it's 2013, it's pretty modern, and so then like post-apocalypse stuff is like, it's just a different vibe. And I think they might have wanted to have like a little more simple technology.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, smartphones were around 2013.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't want to have to contend with that and stuff. Like, that's just different.
Yeah, because I was just like always like curious. I'm like, interesting.
But kind of circling around to our circle of video game adaptations.
Actually, wait, one last thing. Weren't you glad at the end when he kills the guard and he grabs the gun?
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah, thank God. Funny. I had an opposite nitpick when they come out of the tunnel and all the people are dead. I was like, I hope that they start looting.
I mean, that's my head. I'm like,
go down, like crawl. And I'm glad they didn't, because it would be annoying, but it might have been a nice little touch if like, he just goes and he grabs like a couple bullets from someone.
Yeah.
But
anyways, I just needed to say that because at the end was how they get into the city. I just love that scene that they show them running to the buildings and it pans up.
Oh, that was a great shot. What a fantastic CG composition. Like
it looked real.
It looks real. The budget on the show must be so exceptionally high.
Sony must have like been like, here, take all the money.
Yeah, between HBO and Sony, they're just like, we're not sparing any expense.
Because in fact, Sony has we're gonna allude to this. Like, Sony has like some of the worst movies with video game adaptations ever.
Well,
Uncharted.
There's a lot. I mean, that's not even one of the worst. That's still like a 5 for me. But I really appreciate how lovingly made this is, and that they included the creators of the original story.
Yeah.
And you can see that like they really believed and had confidence in this story.
Yeah.
And that's really refreshing, because most video game adaptations, especially live action ones, they always are made by people that aren't passionate about the original story. You can just tell, like, even Uncharted, I don't think it's a terrible movie. It's not good. It's a 5. But
it's not even
you can tell they were like, you can see that this movie, that Uncharted was made from the top down, where executives were like, hey, what's this property we had that we can easily make a movie?
Yeah.
All right, let's hire people. Let's hire producers. They're going to hire writers. They're going to hire, like, then they'll find a director. And it wasn't people that were like, I fucking love Uncharted, and I want to make an Uncharted movie because it's the fucking bomb.
It's going to be amazing.
It was like, hey, these people. And so what happens is people start making compromises. They're like, okay, yeah, Uncharted story's good, but like, what if we change this? What if we change this?
Oh, we want to make it a franchise, because those four games we can base this on.
Yeah, and so they start to change the story, and that's fine. Like, it's an adaptation. It can't be exactly the same. Yeah. But what happens is at one point you start making so many little changes, you start to lose the spirit of it.
Yeah.
And I think that The Last of Us might be the adaptation that maintains the spirit of the game most faithfully.
Because I think the one question we want to answer is that, what is the state of video games and video game properties or stories or whatever
other mediums.
In other mediums. And other than The Last of Us, like, okay, we're gonna stop talking about The Last of Us because we love it.
We'll talk about it more on later episodes.
Yeah, maybe later.
Probably not every episode. We'll cover it closer to the end. We'll probably
maybe
come
we'll
together.
do checkpoints. Of
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
But yeah, I think I have a kind of feeling that some video games don't do well, and they should have never been made into other media.
Well, I think it all boils down to the reason the movies are being made, which is money. And I think we suffer a lot as audiences in this era of every movie has to be a mega franchise, and we don't get those like middle movies where it's made by people that are passionate and they get a couple tens of millions and they just get to make a movie they want. It's executives being like, what's a franchise we own? Whoa, is there spaceships? Fuck yeah. Oh, is there superheroes? Fuck yeah. Is it a known property? Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And they just only focus on these big properties. And so video games are seen as this well to go to make these shitty franchise movies by people that don't give a fuck about the story of the video game. They are such passionless projects that exist to solely exploit people's already existing love and devotion of a IP.
Yeah.
And they generally fucking suck. Like let's think about like the Tomb Raider movies. The Tomb Raider movies weren't made because Tomb Raider has this incredible story that they want to tell through a movie.
No.
It's made because it was a huge franchise at the time. They're like, hot babe, let's get a big star. Let's fucking make an adventure movie. Sure. No, it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Those ones are like not even the worst adventures.
No.
But like you can so clearly see where the money comes from. Same with like Doom.
That was like for me, other than the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah.
Which was like horrible mess.
That one's so bad it's good. I enjoy laughing at that one.
Yeah, I do want to watch that.
I would love to watch it.
I need to. We should watch it again.
Sure.
Yeah, let's watch it again.
It's been a while.
But yeah, that movie was so weird. I thought it was cool in a way because I was only like 19 when it came out. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
The Rock, cool.
Yeah.
Carl Urban.
Love Carl Urban.
I love him, but in this movie, he sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everyone sucks. And like that's the exact thing I'm saying is like they don't give a fuck about Doom. Nobody making that movie was like, oh, I'm so passionate about the fucking Doom guy.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, what's a really big video game franchise? Okay, Doom. Yeah. We can kind of sci-fi horror. Okay, yeah.
Monsters, demons.
Okay.
Guns.
We can make it work. And I think that that's like always the trend. It's so rarely someone who's like, we got to make this. And I feel like The Last of Us, they did a good job maintaining and finding people that really felt the core of it.
To be fair with The Last of Us, the story and how it's played out in the gameplay is very watchable.
Well, I think that's, I want to stick on the positive and like, let's stick to the more broad discussion for now, where like the best video game adaptations have had like a core of passion, some semblance of like, hey, Sonic, they clearly like Sonic.
Well, I mean, okay. So I was gonna bring up Sonic, right? Because Sonic is kind of the mix of corporation greed, just making movies and money, and then them seeing how the internet reacted to how Sonic looked. They hired someone who was very passionate about it. I think they hired him through social, like Twitter or something. They're like, hey, I fixed Sonic for you, and they hired him from that. But anyways, they found someone who's very passionate about how Sonic looks, and Sonic 1 and 2, they're okay movies. Yeah. But Sonic looked fantastic.
Well, and I think they captured something that was honest about what we thought a Sonic was.
Yeah.
And I think that's always the key is like Sonic's not a great movie. It's a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
This the first one is. The second one I think is less good. But like the main character, Ben whatever, he gets Sonic and he loves Sonic. You can tell there's like a passion there. The director also like played the Sonic games and he loved it. And like I think what Sonic does and Sonic's not a great example because there's so much other property now, but the video game adaptations to me that are the most interesting and have the most potential to do something special
I could probably already guess the list.
Are ones that take stories from video games that aren't told or like that can't be told. Like Sonic, if you like the original Sonics, they couldn't really tell much story. Like, yeah, sure, there's a Chaos Emerald, and like, what's his face? Like Knuckles comes and punches the Chaos Emeralds and they split or whatever.
Yeah.
Back then, you couldn't really tell the story. So like a movie can actually fill in the gaps, do this stuff. I think a perfect example is Castlevania. Yes, Castlevania has a story.
Yeah.
And, like in the later games especially, there's more and more story. Like by the time you got to Lords of
I
Shadow.
mean, I think the first Castlevania, it was like, man, Vampire Hunter versus Dracula.
100%.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, we can actually make it to a story.
Yeah, the third game has like a little bit of story, like multiple characters and like kind of not different end. There's a different ending. Anyways, there's a little bit, and like Symphony of the Night has voice acting and stuff. Like there is story to Castlevania, but the show totally tackles it and breathes life into the story in a way that the games never could.
Yeah.
And that's one of my core problems with video game adaptations of stories of video games that tell their stories like a movie. Like The Last of Us is basically a fucking TV show.
Yeah.
And now it is a TV show. It's the same with like Uncharted. Uncharted the movie did not need to exist because Uncharted the game is a fucking movie.
Yeah.
And they keep, I think what they're going to do, what I'm really scared about because of the success of The Last of Us is they're going to zero in on all these cinematic video games that tell their story just fine.
Yeah.
And then they're just going to retell the story exactly the same way or like slightly different because that's going to make them money. And it's so creatively unnecessary. And if I'm being like frank about it, it's sort of insulting to the medium of video games for them to be like, we're going to make a movie about this video game because, hey, you know, the video game didn't do a great job telling the story. No, it fucking did. It did a great job telling the story. And like the more balanced part of me is like, no, the point of making The Last of Us TV show isn't to tell the story better. It's to reach a new audience.
Yeah.
But part of me is pissed. I'm like, The Last of Us TV show, these franchises that are story driven as video games, they don't require anything else to prove that they're worth it.
Yeah, because I think the two upcoming ones, TV shows, like I'm just gonna go TV show properties. Warhammer 40K with Henry Cavill.
Yeah,
I'm kind of excited about that.
Oh, 100%.
The lore of Warhammer 40K is so complex,
so deep.
It's so deep that I'm actually very surprised they haven't done this forever. Granted, everyone's
so
a space
niche.
Yeah, everyone's a space Nazi, so it's kind of weird. So everyone's super racist.
Yeah, everyone's super evil. Yeah,
super like no one's good.
No.
Like no one's really good. But then I think, another one was Gears of War. I think that one is gonna happen. That one I was surprised it took this long.
It's too late. No one fucking cares anymore.
Really, Gears of War 5 was pretty good.
Yeah, but like critical mass of Gears of War was so 360 era.
Yeah,
like they're still good. I liked Gears of War 5.
Yeah,
but like the cultural impact of that is so diminished.
It's over.
It's the same with like I was thinking about that walking through a Walmart and I saw a bin of body pillows and there was Halo body pillows.
Oh,
they were just like black on one side and then like ships on the other. It wasn't like Master Chief. If it was Master Chief, I would have bought one.
Yeah,
but
I totally even forgot about the like Halo TV show.
Oh my
that came
god,
out. Yeah.
that one. That did not capture the spirit of the show, of the movie, of the game.
The first episode was pretty cool.
There was some kind of cool stuff, but like they just clearly didn't trust the story of the game and they didn't tell that story. They're like, we got to develop into something else, like show John be this totally developed character. No, that's not Halo. Halo is something different.
I just want to see him kicking ass.
Yeah.
Punching
And like,
Flood in the face.
maybe it's not like you maybe don't follow Master Chief. Maybe he's like a background superhero that pops in and like does shit.
Yeah.
But Halo's a franchise that I think is really struggling to figure out what it does to grow.
Yeah.
Because like think about how important Halo was to gaming 2000 to 2006.
Yeah.
Like it was fucking Halo City and like it was so fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And Halo Infinite was big for like a month
and a half.
and then it just like stopped.
Yeah.
And it's like Halo just has struggled to figure out its relevancy.
I don't think they can because the Halo franchise really sucked. But yeah, here's two franchises that I do like other than Castlevania. I love Castlevania as well.
It's so fucking good.
Can't wait for the next one.
Same. I know it's cool that it's a spin-off, but it's kind of a sequel series.
It's not really a spin-off.
Because it's Richter. So it's going to start at Rondo of Blood and do Symphony of the Night, which are the two best Castlevania games in my opinion.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't think it's a spin-off. I think it's just like it's a continuation. Same universe.
Yeah, it's just going to be the only character that's in it will be Alucard because everyone else is dead. It's been a couple hundred years.
Yeah.
So Trevor and Sypha will be gone.
I think it's just definitely. It's just continuation. It'll be great. Well, I'm not on wood. Cyberpunk Edge Runners was really good.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute.
Granted, Cyberpunk Edge Runners is really good because they just kind of use the same universe and they kind of went like, all right, do some fun stuff
See, I think it's the success of that show is really impressive in the face of that. The game kind of struggled to feel like it had a unique visual identity. Like its visual identity was technically impressive, and whereas Edge Runners is so visually striking in its simplicity, and it's very authentically cyberpunk, but it's still like you can see one frame of Edge Runners and you're like, that's fucking Edge Runners.
Yeah.
And I think that I am not always a huge fan of spoilers for mild general spoilers for Edge Runners for tragedies that that it just end in a really dark place.
Yeah.
But they really earned it, and it didn't feel cheap. It didn't feel like, oh man, we're just like making you fucking upset. We're gonna subvert your expectations. Yeah. It was like, no, this is totally earned. Yeah. And I am so upset, but I totally get how he got here. Yeah. And this sucks, but I love this.
It's the universe of cyberpunk. Like, it's very true to like the cyberpunk world is that to die, like you will not die of old age in this universe.
No, you will fucking die.
Yeah, you will die, but it depends on how you die.
Yeah.
Is that what you try to do is become legend status that makes you a legacy person.
Yeah.
So, the main character David David.
Yeah, we're going to get into specific spoilers, so watch out if you haven't watched Edge Runners.
Well, I mean, if you haven't watched, God.
Hey, that's only been like 6 months.
Is it 6 months?
It hasn't been that long.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, like he dies. Like within you meet him and 1 year later, he's gone.
Yeah.
So
he's like it's I think what they do is they transform him. Like you start and it's like, oh, it's an anime, he's like a high schooler. He's like, he's the poor kid at a rich school. He's got to like, be plucky in this. And like 3 episodes in, he starts like, well, right away he starts cyberjacking.
I don't even
think
3 episodes in. I think it's the first episode.
Well, by like the 3rd episode, he's like an entirely different body.
Oh, yeah.
He's like this jacked, huge dude because he's all these augments.
Was it the 3rd episode?
I don't know. Somewhere pretty early. And then at the end, he's like a fucking War Machine tank, and you see him like slowly get pulled apart, and you're like, what the fuck? He was just a kid like just months ago. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's weird because you see him like age up like real quick, and then the storyline is so beautiful. Granted, I thought about it a little bit more, and this is like I watch way more anime than you do. The storyline is basic enough. The one that really stands out to me was an anime called Akame Ga Kill. Okay. Or in English one, it's Akame La Kill.
Okay.
So based enough, it's like kid joins this group of assassins to take down the government, and he learns how to like become part of the assassins. The assassins slowly die one by one in really dramatic ways, and then he dies himself too. But the girl that he falls in love with survives as well, and she kind of goes through. So like, I'm really generalizing. It's a really good anime in my opinion.
But in broad strokes, you can kind of see it. They look kind of the same.
Yeah, like if you put it right beside, you're like, oh, yeah. But granted, I was more emotionally taxed with Cyberpunk.
Sure. Yeah, it's fucking fantastic. I think it's a lot of stories at a far distance kind of look the same. Everything's a hero's journey, either a good one or a tragedy.
No, it's just Japanese culture. It's just so bad.
And so, yeah, when you can manage to make the individual beats and the individual characters come to life in such vibrant ways as they do in that show. It's a fucking great show.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't like dark shows all the time, but it's so well developed and earned in that show. It felt very satisfying.
It just felt like the ending was really good. She's trying to get over him, and then she'll never get over.
And I'm a huge fan of closed arcs. I love miniseries where like we know where we're starting, we know where we're finishing, and we're fucking finishing. We're not like, we're gonna make another season.
No, people were asking. It's like, make a second season. No. Yeah. No, the guys like the team that behind it are like, but he's dead. Like, there's nothing.
It could be a different cyberpunk show, but it can't be Edge Runners. Like, it's got to be a.
No, I can't see. I don't want to see anything else. Yeah. Like, I don't want to see like, oh, it's gonna be like Edge Runners, but like a different group. Like, no, this is done.
Yeah.
Like,
on the opposite side of that, we get Arcane.
Yeah.
Which is good, but is clearly being developed to be a big TV franchise. And I don't find it nearly as satisfying as Edge Runners.
Really?
Yeah, I liked it, but I never was like, I can't wait to see the next episode. I need to know what happens. I'm like, I like these characters, and like, I care, I guess, about this stuff. But there's so many side characters I didn't give a fuck about. There's so much like filler conversation. I thought the animation and the action stellar.
Yeah.
But there were so many things in it that I'm like, these aren't really developed characters. They exist to be tools of the story.
Well, okay, so just for listeners, if you haven't seen or heard Arcane, you're living under a rock. I'm just gonna be insulting now. But it's based on League of Legends characters. Jinx, like the two big ones is Jinx and V. So I've played one game of League of Legends.
Played one.
But the lore is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Like those so it's every single hero that you choose has a huge backstory. You can read about it. I think those comics and stuff.
Yeah, there's a huge lore.
Yeah. And you go to League of Legends, the YouTube channel, those like videos and everything. But I think Arcane was like their first kind of real effort into like, okay, let's make a story and make a franchise.
But let's find mainstream success.
Riot is really Riot, the developer for that game, are really good at expanding and penetrating different kind of markets to get people to come back to play League of Legends. Like they got like Little Nas to like make a commercial. They got can't remember what the K-pop group name. But
BTS,
they're
not BTS.
Yeah, no, not BTS. They're actually in League of Legends.
Fair.
Like they make music videos and
That's
stuff.
cool.
Really cool. And now they have Arcane to kind of like hit people of either younger age or people going, oh, League of Legends is just that MOBA game.
Okay.
But like, oh, there's a story, so you should
Now
you
I
should
care.
play.
Yeah.
So I do agree with you that Arcane, I think I liked it more not for the story, but how they told the story. Yeah, and they went dark enough to make it kind of really impactful.
Yeah. I feel like I saw the corporate machination behind Arcane a little bit more. Like it didn't feel as like, obviously there's an authentic part, like creative soul at the center of Arcane. Like I'm not trying to be like, oh, it's looking money grab. Obviously not. It's a great piece of media, but I didn't find I could give myself over to the illusion and the world of it in the same way I could do with Edge Runners.
I mean, yeah, I think it's like with Edge Runners, it's just like individual, like you can be attached to an individual. Arcane was more about classism.
Yeah, and I think when it comes down to it, I'm kind of forming thoughts as I go because I haven't thought about Arcane for a while. I felt like Arcane was looser, and I feel like there was more scenes in Arcane that didn't interest me.
Yeah.
Where like there's people conversing, like, you know, some second tier love interest of this person. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Just give me like the 7 main people, focus on them, develop these interesting relationships. And that's what Cyberpunk does really well. It's like there is no fucking fat. It's all like every scene, every line of conversation is building towards the point that it's making.
Because I think with Cyberpunk is a really huge, like, expansive universe if you actually played the pen and paper game.
Yeah.
But if with League of Legends, like it dwarfs, it's like here's a little like moon of content with Cyberpunk. League of Legends is like a supernova. Like,
I don't know.
It's like so much stuff. So I can see like Arcane was like nothing's gonna top Arcane season 1. I would say season 2, season 3, season 4. It's like what's gonna happen is what you're gonna say is like the corporate stuff, like, oh, they're gonna have all these like little fan favorite heroes gonna appear somewhere, and it's like, yay! Every time they're gonna appear, they're gonna make like $1 million because people are gonna like look into that character, gonna play that character, and they're gonna buy like $1 million of skins on that one.
Yeah,
and it's unfortunate because they spent so much time making Arcane. I think like they spent 6 years.
Wow.
The French studio was just like, let's make this good.
It's a great looking show.
Yeah. So I think for me, storyline was pretty good, but I think I was more blown away with how they made the look of the show very unique.
Oh, totally. And like normally 3D shows that are designed to look like hand drawn, I hate.
What's a good example of one that you did?
I watched the trailer. It was like the Dragon Prince or some shit on Netflix. And it's one of those like, you know what I'm talking about. It's like a 3D, but it's made to look hand drawn.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking ugly.
Cell shaded.
Well, yeah, there's cell shaded, but there's like, they changed the animation as well to make it feel more anime, where like the mouth isn't tied to the face movement. So it's like separate.
To be fair, I really liked Dragon Prince.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't watch it. I just hate the animation style.
Just play in the background. It's a pretty good story.
Sure.
It's actually dark enough to be like, oh.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But that animation style,
yeah, it's pretty bad.
Not a big fan of. And so when I first started watching Arcane, I was worried it was going to tickle that part of my brain that hates. But it has this unique identity and like this this absolute creative just vision
Yeah.
that totally works.
Yeah, because my problem is that they spent so much time making season 1. Season 2 is going to come out, I think, like 2 years, and it's going to short. So they're going to like mass produce a share of the show, which it's just like I'm worried, but also excited at the same time because I want more. Like, it's trying to feed my dopamine of like I want more content.
Yeah,
but me doing that is kind of like I just turned this Michelin star restaurant into a McDonald's.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think that the first season was good and they had a good little arc. It could go either way. I'm not willing to like be super cynical about the show. It might actually develop into something more complex and interesting to me, but it could also be exactly like you said, where it's just like they're going to rush it through it. They're going to get to, showing as many characters as they can because they want to show it. They want to make as many TV show skins as they can so that they can sell them in the game.
Maybe what they could do, because the storyline's pretty good. Maybe like Arcane and V and Jinx's story is kind of like kept there, and then they have like the spin-off moneymakers.
Yeah,
like please God, just go there. But
and I love these video game franchises that have absolutely insanely deep lore. I felt the same with Dota. So there's the Dota show.
I couldn't watch it.
I loved it.
Really?
Yeah, I loved it.
Oh my God. I try to watch it. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on.
So that's what I fucking loved. Because normally fantasy shows are so generic.
Yeah.
But what I like about Dota is you get the sense of this immense depth.
Yeah.
Then you're like, it feels like it just shoves you in and you're like, you have to figure out the lore as you're going. You know, how do dragons work? Okay, wait, no, there's like this queen that's evil. Okay, there's this evil spear that's trying to take over everything. Oh, fuck. Okay, and then eventually, like, it starts to make more sense. And eventually kind of lands into more, like, what you're used to fantasy stuff. And that show, to me, got better and better and better. And, like, the season 2 finale, like, it was kind of one of my background shows where I would, like, clean and do stuff.
Oh, is season 2 out?
Season 3 is out. I think they're done.
Okay, so
but at the end of season 2, there's like kind of a big epic battle. Yeah. And I remember I was like, wasn't paying attention, and I just kind of like got sucked in. I just stood there staring at my TV for like an hour because I was so into it. And I cried, and I was like, this is the fucking sickest finale. Yeah. And then the third season wasn't nearly as good because they do like 4 episodes to conclude the arc of season 2, and then they do like a big reset where like it's like a multi-dimensional thing and they jump dimensions. And then they try and restart over, and it sucks.
Wait,
it fucking sucks.
Dota is the one with the dark elves needing to steal that lotus thing.
They're not dark elves. They're just like forest elves.
Forest elves, yeah.
Yeah, but they're like the polyamorous elves, and they have to steal the lotus back because they're worshiping the moon queen who that lotus belongs to. I can't remember all of this stuff, but it's like I just found it fascinating, and if more creators could have the amount of world building that goes into something like that and develop stories on top of it, I'd be so grateful, because everyone does the bare minimum world building to make their story. Yeah. And you think about Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings, he didn't start with Lord of the Rings. He started with all the lore, and then he built stories on top of that. Yeah. And then he jumped like thousands of years in his world that had been developed, and then told the story that made the most impact. And that's what you got to do. You got to like make lore, tell these stories with that lore, make more lore on top of that. And then you have this like authentically huge story that then can now have an impact, and you can start over there.
I mean, maybe that's what Warhammer 40K is going to be.
I think Warhammer has such great potential. Yeah. Like, I can't imagine a franchise with deeper lore than fucking Warhammer 40K.
Yeah, 40K or the original Warhammer, granted, whatever, those are the same again.
I think you kind of mentioned, I think what the big fear I have is everyone sucks. Everyone sucks in the Warhammer universe. So like, who are the heroes going to be?
Well, there is one chapter of Space Marines called the Salamanders. Like, this is what I've been doing since I found out. No, actually, when did I start? Anyways, I don't know. I always have a fascination with Warhammer, and ever since, if my interest dies down, YouTube will find a way to poke it back up. Yeah. But I was watching a YouTube short and about this one guy talking about the Space Marine salamanders, even though very weird, they kind of look kind of evilish, the green, and they use flamers on their enemies to burn them. They actually value human life.
Oh.
But there was a chapter called the Ultramarines, or like the Boy Scouts of the
Were they
the
like the
Warhammer-
most evil ones?
No, yeah, they're like the good. They're like the lawfully good ones.
Okay.
And yeah, Henry Cavill is gonna play the Primarch for that one,
Okay.
probably because Henry Cavill's super jacked and he's gonna be great. I don't know. It's
It's gonna be a hard franchise because like the proportions are so cartoony.
Yeah.
And so like doing it live action is gonna be weird unless I almost hope they do it animated.
I mean, those one guy did their start. Have you seen it? Their Astartes series?
No?
Oh, okay. Well, we'll send it to you to watch.
Yeah, sure.
It gives you enough to kind of understand like the powers and everything.
Yeah.
And it's all done by one guy.
Oh, that's cool.
Which after he made all his 5-part series on YouTube, Games Workshop hired him.
Oh, sick.
Granted, the only problem is that all his original videos, they got him to take it down. So there's all these like re-uploads out there that they didn't download the best quality ones.
No, it's just kind of...
It doesn't look great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm really curious of how they're gonna go through it. They might go through like what's parts of the stories like the Horus heresy and how like one person betrayed them all, and that's why humanity wasn't great. Granted, I don't know. It's I love the Warhammer 40K, but also depresses the shit out of me.
Well, yeah, it's meant to be pretty
I mean,
downing.
like humanity's greatest resources is human lives. It's like, oh, you can like the Imperial Guards, which is just like the generic like you and me humans fighting in armies. They are just like cannon fodder. It's like, oh, we're just gonna like defend the place. They have billions and billions of soldiers, just like human cannon fodder.
Yeah.
Like no one, like it's just, it's so cool. But and more I talk about it, it just depresses the shit out of me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's so shit.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But that's definitely a franchise I'm excited about.
Yeah.
What do you think about the Mario movie?
I'm actually pretty excited.
Me too.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks fantastic. Chris Pratt's voice is fine.
I feel a little less enthused about his voice than I think you do. I think the animation looks amazing. The world looks really cool. Like that little trailer where you're like inside Mushroom City and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I like this.
Yeah.
Even the first trailer where Bowser's attacking the.
Oh,
I was
awesome.
super into that. It remains to be seen, and they clearly have been avoiding showing us Chris Pratt's voice that much in promotional materials. You hear it very small amounts.
No, when he's in Mushroom City, he talks
a little bit,
yeah.
but they don't get him to talk too much.
Yeah.
And
you haven't heard Peach's voice yet.
No, yeah. I'm excited to see it. I think it's going to be not great. I think it'll be good, but I don't think it's going to be like an all-time great video game movie.
Yeah, I mean, Illumination, I think the studio behind that is really well known to either make good franchises or franchises to milk.
Well, yeah, I'm not a big fan of Despicable Me, and I'm not a big fan of Minions.
I don't understand. I kind of understand the obsession with Minions because my nieces and nephews are just really obsessed with it.
Thing.
But like Rise of Gru, I did not care about. Despicable Me 1, 2, and 3. I was like, this is fine. Like I don't know. That
Secret Life of Pets was like, meh.
Secret Life of Pets was
Meh.
yeah.
It wasn't like offensively bad, but it was just like such a uninteresting. Clearly, this is just to sell toys to kids.
It's toys to kids, and also, we want to market these actors to be voice actors.
Yeah,
like Kevin Hart. I'm like, even Kevin Hart signed up to do a sequel. I'm like, man, you sell out hard.
Oh, I mean, they give you so much money for those animated movies because they don't pay their animators right. Yeah, they have all this budget left to buy.
Actually, apparently, VFX people are unionizing.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
I was just like, wow, that's going to change a lot of things.
I was thinking about that today, that I would gladly take way less. So we're talking specifically about animation.
Yeah.
I would gladly take so much less animated content. So many less movies, so many less TV shows.
Yeah.
If the animators got paid right, if the right people got to make really interesting stories. Because right now, we just get like a fuck ton of animated movies and 90% of them fucking suck. And we get, like, think about how many adult animated shows there are right now. There's like
None.
a billion. There's
a
like
lot. Yeah.
all these shitty Netflix ones that you like see and you're like, no, like Live PD and shit.
Oh yeah.
Like there's all these terrible ones.
You know what? Actually, I'm upset. They canceled Inside Jobs.
I hadn't watched that.
Dude, watch it. It's so good. The second season,
Yep.
I thought it was like, at first I was like, uh-oh. And then how they finished it, I was like, fuck it.
But I would take so many less of those shows to get better living conditions for animators, but also like better ones. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need that many. I would way rather there be less content and it's better.
Yeah. Or just like have like those content, just make a YouTube channel. Just like if your story works, then you can kind of do it.
Yeah, there's a million ways to do it, but I'm nervous about the success of The Last of Us. I theoretically I like the idea of the Mario movie more because Mario games don't really tell that much of a story outside of like the RPG ones. And so it's nice to like, have things developed.
Yeah.
But also it wasn't necessary. Video games are their own complete medium and they don't need no other medium.
Well, I mean, they needed to erase the original 90s
No, they need
movie.
to amplify it.
No, that one's so crap. Like, I don't know.
It's a so bad it's good movie, but I love It's So Bad It's Good movies, but you can only handle them in like 30 minutes.
Okay, wait. So with me, because we have an age disparity here.
Yes.
So I watched that excited when it came out. So I was like looking forward to it. When did the movie come out? I came up with
90 something.
I remember begging my dad to get it. 93. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I didn't watch it in theaters, but I remember when it came into VHS. I begged my dad to rent that. It's like, well, you only get one for the month.
Yeah.
I used it. Yeah. The only reason why I'm trying to clarify it, because I can't remember, because my dad would let me go into movie theater once every 6 months.
Okay.
And then a VHS rental once a month.
Okay.
That's like my treat. And then a video game rental like every 3 weeks. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever. I
don't understand why my dad let me rent the video games.
Hey, it's active. Includes your brain more.
But so I was always forever scourged of that movie.
Yeah.
Goombas were weird. Like that.
Yeah.
That's the epitome of a bad
So
movie.
bad.
Bad movie and bad video game adaptation. Yeah. It's like, oh, we can't jump. We have to use these boots to jump.
It's got nothing right.
Yeah. Like the Nintendo glove. I can't remember what the Nintendo glove did.
No, they have the power. They have the bazooka.
Yeah. The bazooka was
like
kind
the
of
super
cool.
scope. Yeah, I had a different experience. I think the first time I watched it, I was like 18 or 19.
Yeah, so I
knew it was bad.
Yeah, I was 7, dude.
Yeah, that would have been really disappointing. And so going in knowing it's a piece of shit, it's fun. And I love laughing at terrible movies. Like even the first Mortal Kombat, I think, is a fun movie.
I love that first Mortal Kombat. Yeah. It did. I'm like, oh, they fight. Cool. Yeah.
The song is a banger.
Dude, that song is still hot. Every time I go to like a gym, I hear Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, I get hyped. Let's fucking go on the street right now.
Yeah,
and fight.
But okay, here's one video game franchise before we kind of sum up everything. I did not know about this, but it was revealed at CES. So you may have noticed this. A Gran Turismo movie.
Yeah, that had been rumored before.
Yeah, but they announced it during a CES.
Yeah.
Directed by Orlando Bloom.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Why? Why is there like a Gran Turismo movie? There's no storyline in the game.
It's going to be Karate Kid driving movie. It's going to be like some guy from nowhere who like has the skills to be a driver, but everyone hates him. All the rich guys are like, you can't drive. He'll be like, I can drive. And he will have to fight and scrap and have the shitty cars, and you'll watch him drive like 30 different fucking supercars, and they're going to the track, and at the end he'll be the best driver, and he will be crowned the Gran Turismo.
I mean, like the trailers worry me because it's like, no, not trailers, like the sneak peek of Orlando Bloom's like, you were going to try to make it like the video game. I'm like, no, stop.
There's no story.
Yeah, there's no, like, don't try to make it like a video game.
It's just going to be a racing movie.
Yeah. Granted,
yeah, we'll see. Like, maybe to be fair, you can make a good racing movie.
Yeah.
What it will carry over from Gran Turismo, I don't know, but maybe they have a vision for it. Like, it is possible that they like have an idea of like what the identity of Gran Turismo is, what the spirit of Gran Turismo is, and they can carry that to a movie.
Yeah.
But to me, it's just going to be Karate Kid. It's going to be a racing movie with an underdog racing movie.
Yeah, because I haven't played Gran Turismo since like PS3 days. Like I was really into Gran Turismo then.
Yeah.
But like, I can't see anything because for me, what Gran Turismo is a really detailed simulation racer.
100%.
And it looks fucking great that some people have tricked me on Twitter and whatever.
Yeah.
Going, oh, look at my car. I'm like, oh, that's a sweet ride.
yeah.
Like, oh, it's Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
I'm like, shit.
no.
Well, I was like, oh, but it looks good. But like, I'm trying to struggle here. I'm like, I just don't understand why you have to lend your franchise into a movie because the games do great. Yeah. But I mean, I'm worried. Oh, I'm not worried. I don't really care. I'm probably not going to watch that movie. I'm just like, this is going to be bad.
I guarantee I'm going to watch it because I watch 5 movies a week.
Oh my God.
And so I'm not eagerly anticipating it, but I'm excited to find out more about it.
Yeah.
I am excited to segue to the end of this episode.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I want to ask is that, do you think video games should be adapted to movie and TV when it feels appropriate? Yeah.
I think, no. It's hard to make general statements like that. Yes, you can make a good video game adaptation, and I think business-wise, it makes a lot of sense to try and grow your audience. I think the most interesting question about The Last of Us to me is, will this drive video game sales? Will this sell PS5s?
It will.
And I think that if someone can find a way to like put the number to how many PS5s the Last of Us TV show sold, I would be so fascinated to find out. I don't know what that metric is.
I don't. The PS5 sales is always high because the demand. But I think you can maybe not because of Sony's because it's such a closed loop system. Most people track Steam. Maybe like you can see like the PC sales of The Last of Us go up. Maybe
it hasn't come out yet. I don't think.
Is it not?
I don't think The Last of Us on PC is out. Maybe like the pre-orders will be out.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of God of War.
Yeah, that's out. And Uncharted as well.
It's Uncharted on PC? Yeah, what a shit experience.
No, apparently it's fucking awesome.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's one seems to be different.
You're playing on an Xbox controller.
Yeah. I think it will. I think like I bet already. I'm sure Sony's seeing a tick in people playing The Last of Us.
I mean, use me as a prime example. Like after the game, downloaded it.
Yeah,
I'm just like literally after this podcast, I'm just probably gonna play a little bit.
I really wish the remake to The Last of Us Part 1.
Yeah,
I just want it to be cheaper, or like put it on PS Plus, man. I give you $25 a month or whatever I fucking pay for the top tier.
Yeah.
I've given you like $150 this year. Give me the fucking game.
I mean, you got to pay back all the production because that's
give me the fucking game.
The Boston Sea. Yeah, but here's like for me, that is a very loaded and general question. It's a very binary yes or no.
Yeah.
But I go, it really depends.
Yeah.
Because a game like if we hit on it, like game like Sonic. Castlevania, they all have their merits that could tell a very cinematic story.
Yeah.
But I think what we are also kind of hitting at is you can use a universe of said property and make a good TV show. You don't have to follow the game story word for word, but maybe that universe, like Cyberpunk, maybe you can just do Cyberpunk all over again or Arcane all over again. Is that here's the rules. But go nuts.
Yep.
Then maybe that's the name of the game.
Yep. I can get into it.
Yeah.
And I think with that, we should call it quits.
Yeah.
If you guys want to hear more of us, get subscribed. Like me, because my father hates me.
Yeah.
Just follow us at this URL inserted here and email us at this email.
I think it's like let's wing it 22@gmail.com.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll edit in a robot voice, the TikTok voice, the girl TikTok voice. 20 things I can't do the voice. I can't do voices.